The night was cold and silent. Only the sound of wind moved through the dark trees around the mansion. This was the home of Damien Cross, a man everyone in the city feared. People called him the Mafia Boss. Nobody dared to knock on his gate without permission. Nobody dared to even look at his house for too long. But that night, someone did knock. It was almost midnight. Damien was sitting in his office, going through papers, when one of his guards rushed in. "Sir," the guard said, breathing fast, "there is a woman at the gate. She says she needs to see you." Damien did not even look up. "Send her away, sir. She can barely stand. She looks hurt." Damien's eyes lifted slowly. In his world, nobody came to his gate uninvited. Enemies did not knock politely. Friends did not come at midnight. This was strange, and strange things made him curious. "Bring her in," he said finally. "But watch her carefully." 2 guards walked to the gate. What they saw made them go quiet for a second. A young woman stood there, holding onto the iron bars for support. Her dress was torn at the bottom. Her shoes were gone. Her feet were bleeding from walking on rough roads. Her hair was messy, stuck to her face because of sweat and rain. But her eyes were sharp, still full of life, even though her body looked ready to fall. "Please," she whispered. "I need to see Damien Cross." The guards exchanged a look. One of them opened the gate slowly. She took 1 step forward, and her legs gave up. She fell to her knees on the wet ground. But she did not cry. She did not scream. She simply closed her eyes for a second, took a breath, and tried to stand again. The guards helped her up and walked her toward the house. Every step she took looked painful. Her right leg was clearly injured. She was limping badly, holding her side like something was hurting there too. But she kept walking. She did not ask for help. She did not complain. When she reached the office door, the guards knocked and entered first. "Sir, the woman is here." Damien stood up from his chair and turned around, and that is when he saw her. She stood at the door, holding onto the frame with one hand because her legs were shaking. Her clothes were dirty and torn. Blood had dried on her arm. Her lips were pale, like she had not eaten or had water in a long time. But she still stood there, trying to look strong. "Forgive me for being late," she whispered. Damien frowned. "Late? Late for what? Who are you?" She opened her mouth to answer, but her body swayed instead. Her knees bent. She was about to fall. Damien moved faster than his guards. He crossed the room in 2 steps and caught her before she hit the ground. Her body was cold, too cold. He could feel her shaking in his arms. "Get the doctor," he said sharply. "Now!" 1 guard ran out immediately. Damien looked down at the woman in his arms. Up close, he could see the injuries more clearly. There was a deep cut on her leg, already turning red and swollen. Her wrist looked twisted, maybe broken. Dry blood was on her forehead too, hidden under her messy hair. Yet even half-conscious, she was still trying to speak. "Please. Don't send me back," she whispered weakly. "They will kill me." Damien's jaw tightened. "Who will kill you?" She did not answer. Her eyes closed. She had fainted. Damien carried her to the couch nearby and laid her down gently. He stood there for a moment, just staring at her. He had seen many people come to him for help before. Men begging for their lives, business owners asking for protection, even rival gang members offering deals. But he had never seen someone walk through pain like this, refusing to give up, even when her body was breaking down. Something about her was different. The doctor arrived within minutes and began checking her injuries. Damien stepped back, arms crossed, watching silently. His guards stood near the door, unsure what to say. Nobody in this house had ever seen their boss allow a stranger inside so easily. "She has a fractured wrist," the doctor said after a few minutes. "And this cut on her leg is infected. She has been walking on it for hours, maybe longer. She's severely dehydrated too." Damien's eyes narrowed. "Hours? Where did she come from?" The doctor shook his head. "I don't know, sir. But whoever did this to her, they wanted her to suffer before she died." Those words hit differently. Damien looked at the woman again. Her face was peaceful now, unconscious, but earlier her eyes had shown something powerful. Fear, yes, but also determination. She had walked for hours, injured and bleeding, just to reach his gate. She had said sorry for being late, like she had somewhere important to be, like she knew him, like there was history between them that he did not remember, or maybe history he did not know about at all. "Find out who she is," Damien ordered one of his men. "And find out who did this to her." The guard nodded and left quickly. Damien sat down in the chair across from the couch, staring at the mysterious woman. Questions filled his mind. Who was she? Why did she come to him? What did she mean by "forgive me for being late"? And most importantly, why did his enemies, whoever they were, want her dead so badly? Outside, the wind continued blowing through the dark trees. But inside that room, a new story was just beginning. A story that would change Damien Cross's life forever. He did not know it yet, but this broken, fearless woman lying on his couch was about to bring his entire world crashing down and build it back up in a way he never expected. Damien did not sleep that night. He sat in the chair beside the couch, watching the woman breathe slowly. Her chest moved up and down, weak but steady. The doctor had given her medicine to help with the pain and the infection. Now all they could do was wait. The guard he had sent earlier returned just before sunrise. His face looked tired, like he had been running around the city all night. "Sir," he said quietly, "I found something." Damien stood up and walked to the door so his voice would not wake her. "Tell me." "Nobody in the city knows her. No name, no address, nothing in our records. But one of our men who watches the east side roads said he saw black cars near the old highway last night. Expensive cars, the kind that only one family uses." Damien's face went still. "Which family?" The guard hesitated before answering. "The Volkovs, sir." The name hit the room like a heavy stone dropping into water. The Volkovs were not just another gang. They were one of the most dangerous families in the country, known for taking whatever they wanted and destroying anyone who stood in their way. Damien had avoided direct conflict with them for years, not because he was afraid, but because a war with them would cost too many lives on both sides. "Are you sure?" Damien asked. "The car had their symbol on it, a black wolf. Nobody else uses that mark." Damien looked back toward the woman on the couch. If the Volkovs were chasing her, then she was not just some random stranger who wandered into his life. She was running from one of the most powerful and cruel families in the country. And now she was inside his house. This was not a small problem anymore. "Keep this quiet," Damien said. "Nobody outside this room talks about her." "Not yet." The guard nodded and left. Damien sat back down, rubbing his forehead. He had rules. He never got involved in other families' business unless it affected his own. He never took sides in wars that were not his. It kept him alive for this long. It kept his men safe. But looking at her now, broken and barely breathing, he felt something pulling him away from his own rules. Why did she come to him? Out of every powerful man in this city, why him? Around mid-morning, she finally opened her eyes. At first, she looked confused, blinking at the ceiling like she did not know where she was. Then her eyes moved around the room until they landed on Damien sitting near her. She tried to sit up quickly, but pain shot through her leg and she gasped, falling back down. "Don't move," Damien said, his voice calm but firm. "Your leg is injured. You need rest." She stared at him, breathing hard. Where am I?" "You are in my house. You came to my gate last night, barely alive." Her eyes widened slightly. She looked down at her bandaged leg, then at her wrapped wrist, like she was remembering pieces of what happened. "Do you remember what happened to you?" Damien asked. She was quiet for a long moment. Her hands gripped the blanket tightly. "They found me," she finally whispered. "I thought I lost them, but they found me." "Who found you?" She looked at him. Her eyes filled with fear now, different from the strength she had shown at the gate. "If I tell you, you will be in danger too." "I'm already in danger just by having you in my house," Damien said. "The Volkov's car was seen near my property last night. So you might as well tell me the truth." Her face went pale at the mention of the name. She closed her eyes for a second, like just hearing it brought back painful memories. "Yes," she said quietly. "It's them. I was supposed to marry into their family, an arranged deal between my father and their boss. But I found out what they really wanted from that marriage. It was not a marriage. It was a trap to control my father's business, and once they had everything, they were going to kill me anyway, to remove any witness. Damien's eyes sharpened. So you ran. I had no choice. I took what proof I could find, and I ran. I've been moving for 3 days, hiding, avoiding their men, but last night they caught up to me near the old highway. I managed to escape again, but she looked down at her injuries. Not without this. Why did you come to me? Damien asked. You don't know me. She looked at him directly this time. Her voice was shaky but honest. Because everyone in the city says you are the only man the Volkovs fear. I did not have another choice. I had nowhere else to go. Damien studied her face carefully. She was not lying. Fear like that could not be faked so easily. What is your name? He asked. Elena, she said softly. Elena Rostova. The name did not immediately mean anything to him, but something about the way she said it made him feel like there was more to her story, more than what she was telling him right now. Damien stood up and walked toward the window, looking out at the quiet morning outside. If he helped her, he would be pulling himself directly into a war with the Volkovs, a family known for burning down entire buildings just to make a point. If he sent her away, she would likely be dead within days. Maybe hours. He thought about his own past, about the people who had refused to help him when he needed it most. Back when he was nothing but a scared young man, trying to survive in this same cruel city. Nobody had helped him then. He had built everything alone, through pain and struggle, but something about Elena's eyes reminded him of himself back then, desperate, alone, refusing to give up even when everything felt impossible. He turned back to look at her. You will stay here, he said finally. Nobody touches you while you're under my protection. Elena's eyes filled with tears, tears she had probably been holding back for days. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Damien's face stayed serious, but his voice was steady. Because somebody once should have helped me the same way, and nobody did. I will not make the same mistake. Elena stared at him, shocked by his answer. For the first time since she arrived, she felt a small flicker of hope in her chest, but neither of them knew yet how deep this decision would pull them into danger. A danger that involved secrets from Damien's own past, secrets that were about to connect to Elena in a way neither of them expected. Outside, the city continued its noisy morning routine, unaware that a storm was building quietly behind the walls of Damien Cross's mansion. 3 days passed. Elena's leg was healing slowly, though she still needed a cane to walk around the mansion. Damien had given her a room on the 2nd floor, far from his own office, but close enough that his guards could watch over her at all times. During those 3 days, Damien noticed something strange. Elena rarely talked about her family. Whenever he asked simple questions about her childhood, her father, her mother, she would look away and change the subject quickly. It was like she was hiding something bigger than just the danger from the Volkovs. One evening, Damien decided to look deeper into her background himself. He called one of his most trusted men, a quiet researcher named Victor, who could find information nobody else could. Find everything about a family named Rostov, Damien said. Father's name, business history, everything. Victor nodded and left without asking questions. That was one thing Damien appreciated about him. 2 days later, Victor returned with a folder full of papers. His face looked unusually serious. Sir, Victor said, placing the folder on the desk. You need to see this. Damien opened the folder. Inside were photographs, documents, and old newspaper clippings. He flipped through them slowly until his hand stopped on one photograph. It was an old picture, slightly faded, showing a group of businessmen standing together at some kind of event. Damien recognized one man immediately, younger but still recognizable. It was his own father. Where did you get this? Damien asked, his voice suddenly tense. That event was 20 years ago, Victor explained. A business meeting between several powerful families. Your father was there, and so was. Victor pointed to another man in the photo. Elena's father, Mikhail Rostov. Damien stared at the photograph, his mind racing. He barely remembered his father, who had died when Damien was only 10 years old, killed in a conflict Damien never fully understood. All he knew was that his father had been betrayed by someone he trusted. Someone who took everything from their family and left young Damien to survive alone on the streets. "Keep reading," Victor said quietly. Damien flipped to the next page. It was an old report about his father's death, but something new caught his attention. A name he had never seen before in connection to that night, Mikhail. Rostov was named as a witness in his father's murder. Investigation. Damien's hands tightened around the papers. "Are you telling me Elena's father knew what happened to my father?" "More than that, sir," Victor said carefully. "According to this old police report, Mikhail Rostov was the one who reported seeing the men who attacked your father. But the case was closed quickly. No arrests were made. It looks like someone paid to make the whole investigation disappear." Damien's jaw clenched hard. All these years he thought nobody knew the truth about his father's death. He believed it was a mystery that would never be solved. But now, sitting in that folder was proof that someone had known everything and said nothing. That night, Damien walked to Elena's room. She was sitting near the window looking outside quietly, her cane resting beside her chair. "I need to ask you something," Damien said, his voice colder than before. Elena turned to him, sensing something had changed. "What is it?" 20 years ago, your father was a witness in an investigation. Do you know what I'm talking about?" Elena's face went pale immediately. Her hands gripped the arm of the chair. "How do you know about that?" she whispered. "So it's true," Damien said, stepping closer. "Your father knew something about my father's murder." Tears filled Elena's eyes. "Damien, I did not know who you really were until a few days ago. Not until I saw your full name on a paper in this house. I swear I did not come here because of that. I did not even know the connection until it was too late to leave." "Then explain it to me," Damien said firmly. "What does your father know?" Elena took a shaky breath. "My father told me the story only once, when I was young, and he made me promise never to repeat it. He said he saw 2 men attack a businessman near the old warehouse district. He wanted to help, but he was scared. By the time he called for help, it was already too late. Later, someone from a powerful family visited our house and gave my father a large amount of money, warning him to forget what he saw, or our whole family would suffer." Damien's chest tightened with anger. "So your father took the money and stayed silent while the killers walked free." He was scared for his family, Damien. He was not a bad man, just a frightened one. Elena's voice broke as she continued, "But it destroyed him from the inside. He drank himself into sickness over the guilt. That's part of why he agreed to that terrible marriage deal with the Volkovs. He was already broken, trying to fix his mistakes by giving away everything, including me." Damien stood silently, processing everything. Part of him wanted to feel anger toward her, to blame her for her father's silence. But looking at her now, shaking and crying, he realized she was just as much a victim of her father's fear as he was a victim of his father's murder. "Do you know who paid your father to stay silent?" Damien asked quietly. Elena shook her head. "My father never told me the name. He said it was too dangerous for me to know." Damien turned toward the window, staring out into the dark night. Somewhere out there was the answer to a question that had haunted him his entire life. Who really killed his father? And why? And now, connected to that same mystery, was a woman lying broken in his house, running from the very family that might hold the final piece of the puzzle. "We are going to find out the truth," Damien said finally. "Together." Elena looked up at him, surprised. "Together? After everything I just told you?" "You did not choose your father's mistakes," Damien said, "just like I did not choose to lose mine. But now our paths have crossed for a reason. Maybe it's time we both got the answers we deserve." For the first time since she arrived, Elena felt like she was not alone in her fight anymore. But she also knew something Damien did not know yet, The name of the family, who had paid her father to stay silent, was closer to Damien than he could ever imagine, and revealing it would change everything between them. Outside, storm clouds began gathering over the city, matching the storm that was quietly building inside the walls of the mansion. The next morning started quietly, but the calm did not last long. Damien was in his office reviewing the old case files again when one of his guards burst through the door, breathing heavily. "Sir, cars are approaching the front gate." "Black cars, at least 6 of them." Damien stood up immediately. "The Volkovs?" "Yes, sir. Their symbol is on every car." Damien's mind moved fast. He had known this moment would come eventually, but he did not expect it so soon. He walked quickly to the security room, where several screens showed different parts of the mansion grounds. On the main screen, he could see the black cars stopping right outside his gate, dozens of armed men stepping out. One man walked ahead of the group, dressed in an expensive dark suit. He looked calm, almost too calm, like a man who was used to getting whatever he wanted through fear alone. "Who is that?" Damien asked. "That's Anton Volkov," the guard answered. "The younger brother of the family boss. He handles their more direct problems." Damien's eyes narrowed. He turned to his men standing nearby. "Nobody makes a move until I say so." He walked outside himself, standing tall near the main gate, his own guards spreading out behind him, weapons ready but hidden. Anton Volkov smiled when he saw Damien approaching. "Damien Cross," Anton said smoothly. "I have heard so much about you. It is an honor to finally meet the great Mafia Boss himself." "You're on my property uninvited," Damien said flatly. "Say what you came to say and leave." Anton's smile widened, but his eyes were cold. "We are looking for something that belongs to us. A woman, young, dark hair, probably injured. I believe she may have wandered onto your land. I have not seen anyone matching that description," Damien said calmly. Anton studied Damien's face carefully, like he was searching for a lie. "That is strange, because one of my men saw a woman heading in this direction 3 nights ago. And strangely, all our cameras near your property went dark for almost 20 minutes that same night." Damien did not move, did not blink. Years of controlling his emotions in front of enemies made his face unreadable. "Cameras fail sometimes. Maybe you should hire better technicians," Anton chuckled, but there was no humor in his eyes anymore. "Let me be honest with you, Mr. Cross. That woman belongs to my family. She stole something valuable from us, and she owes a debt that must be paid. If you are hiding her, you are making a very serious mistake. Are you accusing me of lying?" Damien's voice turned sharper. "I am simply saying," Anton continued, stepping closer, "that hiding a Volkov's property comes with consequences, even for someone as respected as you." The air around them grew tense. Damien's guards tightened their grip on their weapons behind him. One wrong move from either side could turn this into a bloodbath. Damien took a slow step forward, closing the distance between himself and Anton, showing no fear at all. "Let me be clear with you as well. This is my land. My rules apply here, not yours. If you or your men step past this gate without my permission, none of you will be walking back to your cars." Anton's jaw tightened, clearly not used to being spoken to this way. For a moment, it looked like things might explode into violence right there at the gate. But then Anton smiled again, forcing calmness back into his face. "Very well, Mr. Cross. I respect a man who protects his territory. But understand this. My family does not forget, and we do not stop searching. If she is truly not here, then you have nothing to worry about. But if you are lying to protect her," he let the sentence hang in the air. "Dangerous and unfinished. Get off my property," Damien said coldly. Anton nodded slowly, turned around and walked back to his car. The rest of his men followed, and slowly the black cars drove away, disappearing down the long road. Damien stood there for a long moment, watching until the cars were completely out of sight. Only then did he allow his shoulders to relax slightly. He turned to his guards. "Double security around the entire property starting now." Nobody comes in or out without my direct approval. Back inside the mansion, Elena had been watching everything from her window upstairs, her heart pounding the entire time. When Damien entered her room minutes later, she immediately stood up, ignoring the pain in her leg. "Was that Anton?" she asked, fear clear in her voice. "Yes," Damien answered. "He knows you are somewhere nearby. He will not stop looking." Elena's hands were shaking. "I put you and your men in danger. Maybe I should leave, find somewhere else to hide." "No," Damien said firmly. "Leaving now means walking straight into their hands. You are safer here behind these walls than anywhere else in this city, but you saw how dangerous they are. They will not just walk away quietly. Neither will I," Damien said, his voice hard as steel. "Nobody threatens what belongs under my protection." Elena looked at him, surprised by the intensity in his voice. Something had changed in the way he spoke about her, something beyond simple duty or debt from the past. But before she could think more about it, one of Damien's men knocked on the door urgently. "Sir, we have a problem." Damien turned around sharply. "What is it?" "One of our own men was seen talking to a Volkov soldier near the eastern fence line, just an hour before their cars arrived at our gate." Damien's expression darkened immediately. "Are you saying we have a traitor inside this house?" The guard nodded slowly. "It looks that way, sir." Damien looked back at Elena, whose face had gone pale with fear again. If there truly was a traitor inside his own walls, then Elena's location was no longer a secret only he controlled. The danger was not just outside the gate anymore, it was already inside the house. Damien did not sleep that night. The words kept repeating in his mind. A traitor inside his own house. In his world, betrayal was the one thing he could never forgive, because betrayal did not just cost money or property. It cost lives. He called all his senior men into the main hall early the next morning. 12 men stood in a line, some of them looking nervous, others confused about why the meeting was called so suddenly. "One of you," Damien said, walking slowly in front of the line, "spoke to a Volkov soldier yesterday. I want a name, or I will find out myself, and it will not end well for whoever tries to hide it." Silence filled the room. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Damien stopped walking and looked directly at his men, one by one. "I built this house from nothing. I gave every one of you a life when you had nothing else. Whoever betrayed that trust has one chance to speak now." Still silence. Damien nodded slowly, as if he expected this. "Victor," he said, turning to his trusted researcher, "check the security footage from the eastern fence again. Every angle, every time stamp." Victor left immediately to check the recordings. An hour later, Victor returned, his face grim. He handed Damien a tablet showing a paused video. The footage clearly showed one of Damien's younger guards, a man named Felix, standing near the fence, talking to someone dressed in a Volkov uniform, exchanging what looked like an envelope. Damien's eyes turned cold as stone. He handed the tablet to his other men to see. Felix, standing near the back of the line, suddenly looked pale, sweat forming on his forehead. "Felix," Damien said quietly, which was somehow more frightening than shouting. "Explain this to me." Felix tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "Sir, They threatened my family. My sister, she has 2 young children. They said if I did not give them information, they would hurt her family." "So you sold out this house to protect your sister," Damien said, stepping closer. "I did not tell them where the woman is exactly," Felix said quickly, panic rising in his voice. "I only confirmed that someone new was staying here. I swear I did not give any other details." Damien studied him carefully. Fear could make people lie, but it could also make them tell painful truths. Felix looked genuinely terrified, not just of Damien, but of what he had already done. "You put every person in this house at risk," Damien said, "including Elena, who has done nothing wrong except try to survive." Felix lowered his head in shame. "I know, sir. I am sorry. I did not know what else to do." Damien was silent for a long moment. In the past, betrayal like this would have ended with immediate harsh punishment. No exceptions, no excuses. But something about Felix's story reminded Damien of the fear his own mother once had, trying to protect him after his father's death, doing whatever she could just to keep him alive. "You will not be killed," Damien said finally, and the entire room seemed to release a breath they did not know they were holding. "But you no longer work under my protection. You will leave this house today, and you will bring your sister and her children somewhere far from this city, somewhere the Volkovs cannot easily find you. If I ever see your face near my territory again, there will be no mercy the second time." Felix nodded quickly, relief and shame mixing on his face. "Thank you, sir. I will not disappoint you again." "You already did," Damien said coldly. "Now leave before I change my mind." Felix left the room quickly, gathering his few belongings before disappearing from the mansion within the hour. Later that day, Damien visited Elena's room to explain what happened. She listened quietly, her hands folded in her lap. "He was scared for his family," Elena said softly. "I understand that feeling more than anyone." "Understanding does not erase the danger he caused," Damien replied. "The Volkovs now know for certain that someone new is hiding here. It's only a matter of time before they figure out it's you." Elena looked down at her hands. "Maybe it would be safer for everyone if I left." "I already told you," Damien said firmly. "Leaving means walking straight to your death. We stay here. We prepare, and we find out who really killed my father, because I believe that answer is connected to the reason the Volkovs want you dead so badly." Elena looked up at him, surprised. "You think there's a connection?" "Think about it," Damien said. "Your father witnessed my father's murder. Someone paid him to stay silent. Now, 20 years later, the Volkovs are desperate to get you back before you can share whatever proof you found. What if that proof is connected to my father's death as well?" Elena's eyes widened as the pieces started coming together in her mind. "The documents I took from their house, I only looked at some of them quickly before running. There were financial records, old ones, dated back many years. I did not think they were important at the time. I was only looking for proof of the marriage trap. Where are these documents now?" Damien asked urgently. "Hidden," Elena said. "I sewed them inside the lining of my old jacket before I ran. But I lost that jacket somewhere on the highway during the attack." Damien's mind raced. If those documents were still out there, lost somewhere along that dangerous highway, then both the Volkovs and Damien himself were now searching for the same crucial piece of evidence. "We need to find that jacket before they do," Damien said. Elena nodded, determination replacing the fear in her eyes. "I remember roughly where I lost it. Near an old bridge on the East Highway." Damien called Victor immediately, giving him instructions to gather a small, trusted team to search the area quietly, without drawing attention from Volkov spies who might still be watching the roads. As the sun began setting outside, Damien stood by the window, watching his men prepare to leave for the search. He knew this next move was dangerous, possibly walking his men straight into a trap if the Volkovs were also searching the same area. But if those documents held the truth about his father's murder, and the key to ending Elena's nightmare once and for all, it was a risk he was willing to take. Behind him, Elena watched quietly, her heart caught between fear for the men risking their lives and hope that finally, after all these years, the truths might come to light. Neither of them knew that the jacket had already been found, but not by their own men, and not by the Volkovs either. Someone else entirely had picked it up from the roadside, someone who had no idea what secrets were hidden inside its lining, and who would soon become an unexpected part of this dangerous story. The search team returned late that night, tired and empty-handed. They had searched every inch of the road near the old bridge, but the jacket was gone. Damien listened to their report with a tight jaw, frustration building inside him. "Someone already took it," Victor said. "We found tire tracks from a small delivery truck near the spot. Whoever picked it up is long gone by now. Find that truck," Damien ordered. "I don't care how long it takes." Meanwhile, in a small apartment on the other side of the city, a woman named Nadia sat at her kitchen table, holding the torn jacket she had found on the highway 3 days earlier while driving her delivery route. She had almost thrown it away, thinking it was just garbage left behind after some accident. But something about the weight of it, heavier than a normal jacket should be, made her curious. That night, she finally decided to check it properly. Using scissors, she carefully opened the lining at the bottom, and dozens of old papers fell out onto her table. Nadia's eyes widened as she looked through them. Financial documents, bank transfers, names she recognized from the news, powerful families who ran half the businesses in this city. And near the bottom of the stack, a name that made her hands shake. Cross Enterprises. Nadia had grown up hearing stories about the mysterious death of a businessman named Alexander Cross 20 years ago. Her own father used to work for Cross Enterprises before the tragedy, and he often spoke quietly about how strange the whole case was, how the investigation disappeared overnight without explanation. Now here, in her hands, were documents that seemed to explain exactly why. Nadia did not know what to do. Part of her wanted to burn the papers and forget she ever found them. But another part of her, remembering how much her father respected the Cross family before everything fell apart, felt like these documents belonged to someone who deserved to know the truth. The next morning, Nadia made a dangerous decision. She asked around quietly, carefully, until she found out where Damien Cross lived. She wrapped the documents carefully in a plastic bag and drove toward the mansion. Nervous the entire way, when she reached the gate, Damien's guard stopped her immediately, suspicious of a stranger showing up unannounced. "I need to speak with Damien Cross," Nadia said firmly despite her shaking hands. "I have information about his father." The guards hesitated, but something about her sincerity made them call it in rather than send her away. Minutes later, Damien walked out himself, studying the nervous woman standing at his gate. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Nadia. I found something on the highway a few days ago. I think it belongs to you, or at least it explains something about your father's past." She handed him the plastic bag. Damien opened it carefully and saw the old documents inside. His heart skipped as he recognized the name of his father's company on some of the papers. "Where exactly did you find this?" he asked. "Near the old bridge, on the East Highway," Nadia answered. It was inside a torn jacket lying on the roadside. Damien's mind connected the pieces instantly. "This was Elena's jacket." "Thank you," Damien said, his voice softer now. "You did the right thing bringing this to me instead of ignoring it." Nadia nodded, relief clear on her face. "My father worked for your family a long time ago. He always said something was wrong about how everything happened back then. I hope this helps you find the truth." Damien watched her leave before rushing back inside, documents in hand, straight to Elena's room. Elena's eyes lit up with hope and fear together when she saw what he was holding. "You found them?" "A woman found your jacket on the highway," Damien explained. "She brought the documents straight to me." They sat together at the small table in her room, carefully going through each paper. Most of it was financial records, transfers of large sums of money between different accounts. But one document stood out clearly, a signed agreement, dated just weeks before Damien's father was murdered. Damien read the names on the agreement slowly. His hands tightened around the paper. "This is a contract," Damien said, his voice low, "between my father's business partner and someone from the Volkov family. It says here that if my father refused to sell his shares of the company, they would take the company by force." Elena leaned closer, reading further. "Damien, look at this second name." Damien's eyes moved to the second signature at the bottom of the contract, and his entire body went still. The name was Sergei Volkov, the current head of the Volkov family, and the same man Elena had been forced into an arranged marriage with. "Your marriage," Damien said slowly, realization crashing over him, "was not just about controlling your father's business. It was about hiding this connection completely, making sure nobody ever found proof that Sergei Volkov ordered my father's murder to take over his company all those years ago." Elena's face went pale as everything fell into place. "That's why my father was paid to stay silent. And that's why they wanted to marry me into their family and control everything I know, in case I ever found proof like this." Damien stood up, anger and clarity mixing inside him. After 20 years of wondering, of not knowing who truly took his father away from him, he finally held the answer in his hands. "Sergei Volkov killed my father," Damien said quietly, more to himself than to Elena. "And your father's silence protected that secret for 2 decades. Elena reached out and gently touched his arm. "I know this does not fix what happened to your family, but I'm glad you finally know the truth." Damien looked at her, something shifting inside his chest. Over these past days, watching her fight through pain, fear, and betrayal without breaking completely, he had grown to respect her in a way he had never expected. And now, standing beside her as pieces of both their painful pasts connected together, he felt something deeper than respect building quietly inside him. "We cannot just sit on this information," Damien said finally. "Sergei Volkov needs to answer for what he did, both to my family and to yours." Elena nodded, determination replacing the fear that had lived in her eyes since the night she first arrived. "Then let's make sure the truth finally comes out, no matter what it costs us." Outside, dark clouds gathered heavily over the city, matching the storm that was about to break loose between 2 powerful families. A storm built on 20 years of secrets, lies, and buried truth. Neither Damien nor Elena knew yet just how far Sergei Volkov would go to protect his secret once he realized the documents proving his crime were no longer hidden away. Lost somewhere along a quiet highway. Word travels fast in the underworld, and it did not take long for Sergei Volkov to learn that his most dangerous secret was no longer hidden. One of his own men, loyal for the right price, informed him that Damien Cross now held documents proving his role in Alexander Cross's murder 20 years ago. Sergei's calm mask cracked completely. This was not just about controlling a business anymore or punishing a runaway bride. This was about survival. If those documents became public, or worse, reached the police, his entire empire would collapse overnight. That night, Sergei called Anton. "Gather every man we have. We end this tonight. Burn that mansion to the ground if you must, but I want Elena and those documents in my hands before sunrise." Inside the mansion, Damien felt the shift in the air before any warning even arrived. Years of surviving in this dangerous world had given him instincts that rarely failed him. "Something is coming," he told Victor. "Prepare everyone. Tonight." Just past midnight, the guards at the outer fence spotted headlights, dozens of them, moving quickly toward the property. This time, there was no polite conversation at the gate. This time, the Volkovs came for war. Gunfire erupted almost immediately as Volkov soldiers tried breaking through the front gate. Damien's men, prepared and waiting, fought back hard. Using the mansion's walls and gardens for cover, Damien rushed to Elena's room, finding her already standing despite her healing leg, fear and determination mixing on her face. "They're here," she said. "I know." "Stay close to me," Damien said, pulling out his weapon. "We are not losing tonight." They moved carefully through the hallway, avoiding windows as gunfire echoed outside. Victor met them near the stairs, blood on his sleeve from a graze wound, but his eyes sharp and focused. "We are holding the front line, but they have more men than we expected," Victor said. "Sergei is here himself. I saw him near the east side, staying back while his men fight." Damien's jaw tightened. "He wants to make sure this ends tonight one way or another. Then we make sure it ends his way instead." Damien led them carefully toward the east side of the mansion, using the chaos as cover, until they spotted Sergei standing near a car, watching the battle unfold from a safe distance. Untouched by the danger his men were facing, "Sergei Volkov," Damien said. Stepping out from the shadows, his weapon raised. Sergei turned, surprised but quickly regaining his composure. "Damien Cross, I should have known you would come find me yourself." 20 years, Damien said, voice shaking with controlled rage. 20 years I wondered who killed my father, and it was you." Sergei smiled coldly. "Your father refused a simple business deal. He made everything difficult when it did not need to be. I simply removed the problem, And Elena's father, forced to stay silent, forced to sell his own daughter into your family just to protect his silence. Damien continued, stepping closer. How many lives have you destroyed just to protect your secrets? As many as necessary, Sergei answered without shame. That is how power works in this world. You of all people should understand that, Mr. Cross. Elena stepped forward from behind Damien, anger overtaking her fear completely. You destroyed my father slowly, watching him drown in guilt for years, just so your secret stayed buried. Sergei's eyes turned toward her, cold and calculating. You should have simply married me quietly and lived comfortably, Elena. Instead, you chose to run, and now you have caused all of this unnecessary chaos. I chose to survive, Elena said firmly. And now, the truth survives with me. Sergei's hand moved slowly toward his own weapon, but Damien was faster, already aiming directly at him. Don't, Damien warned. Give me one reason not to end this right now. Sergei froze, realizing his mistake in judging Damien's speed. Around them, the sounds of battle were slowly dying down as Damien's men gained control, overpowering the remaining Volkov soldiers. Anton came running from around the corner, breathing hard. Sergei, we need to retreat. We are losing. He stopped immediately upon seeing his brother held at gunpoint. Tell your men to stand down, Damien ordered, his voice leaving no room for argument. Or your brother does not walk away from this tonight. Anton hesitated, looking between Sergei and Damien, before finally raising his hands and calling out orders to retreat. Slowly, the remaining Volkov soldiers backed away, leaving their weapons behind as Damien's men surrounded them completely. Damien looked back at Sergei, still aiming steadily. Part of him wanted revenge immediately, wanted to end everything right there for his father's sake. But looking at Elena beside him, strong despite everything she had suffered, he realized true justice meant something bigger than a single bullet in the dark. You will not die tonight, Damien said slowly. Instead, every document, every proof of what you did, will be sent to the right people, the police, the media, your own business partners. Your empire will not fall from a bullet, Sergei. It will fall from the truth you tried so hard to hide. Sergei's face went pale with realization, understanding that this punishment was far worse than a quick death. His entire life's work, his reputation, his power, all of it would collapse slowly and painfully in front of everyone. You will regret this decision. Cross, Sergei said through gritted teeth. No, Damien answered calmly. I think, for the first time in 20 years, I will finally sleep peacefully. By early morning, the remaining Volkov soldiers had been sent away, their weapons confiscated, their threat ended completely. Damien personally ensured the documents were sent safely to trusted contacts within the police department and several major news outlets, guaranteeing Sergei Volkov's crimes would soon become public knowledge, destroying his empire piece by piece. As the sun rose slowly over the mansion, painting the sky in soft orange and pink colors, Damien stood on the balcony, finally feeling a weight lift from his chest that had been there since he was a scared 10-year-old boy. Elena joined him quietly, standing close beside him, watching the peaceful sunrise together. It's finally over, she said softly. No, Damien replied, turning to look at her, something warm and new in his eyes. I think this is just the beginning. Elena smiled for the first time since she had arrived at his gate that painful night. Exhausted and broken, whispering an apology for being late. She was not late anymore. She had arrived exactly when she was meant to, bringing not just danger but truth, healing, and an unexpected chance at happiness for both of them. Together, they watched the city wake up beneath them, ready to face whatever new chapter life would bring, no longer alone, no longer afraid.